Turn off your lights. Make sure your doors and windows are locked. Things are about to get spooky. My Family Drowned in an Underwater Hotel by GuyAwks. Growing up as an orphan is as hard of a life as people think it is. Between the lack of financial resources and familial warmth, it is a difficult childhood. But it wasn't always like that for me. In fact, it used to be the polar opposite. I used to have a happy and well-off life with a loving family. We would even regularly go on vacation to luxurious foreign locations to see the world, whether it was surfing in the shores of Hawaii or skiing on the slopes of Switzerland. My family always wanted to provide me and my siblings with these great experiences. They were in positions to do so. Both my father and mother were important government diplomats with roles constantly sending them across the world. So it made sense that opportunities to recuperate abroad came alongside that, not to mention the money they earned. I didn't appreciate how extravagant all these trips were at the time, but I certainly do now. It was one of these vacations abroad, ironically, which would cost me my decadent family life, and my entire family, mother, father, brother, and sister, gone. I was excited as I normally was when my family told me about the trip. This time, I was also intrigued. Not only would we be staying in a picturesque beach resort in the Maldives, but we would be in a very special, raw, and new kind of hotel suite. An underwater hotel. I'd vaguely recall seeing a tour video from guests visiting one such hotel online. It looked so pretty and mesmerizing, like a magical glass room on the ocean floor. It had also looked intimidating to my child mind, like the ocean could envelop you from all sides. All it would take was the glass breaking to instantly drown you. Even my older siblings were a bit frightened, but my parents reassured us. For the amount of money it costs guests, of course it would be safe. So, the day after my school term ended, we departed, flying first class across the Atlantic to the Maldives for a 2-week stay. Driving to the airport that day, I had no idea I was leaving my normal family life behind forever, and I would be the only one to return. Touching down on the tiny runway in our smaller connecting plane, I was struck by how exclusive this vacation felt. These islands were as far away from the rest of the world as they were vibrant. The luxury resort was as beautiful as I imagined, framed by pictures of perfect palm trees and sleek wooden buildings, and that was before I even saw the hotel rooms. The real draw of the resort was the ocean villas rising out of the coastal water itself and connected by an aesthetically winding boardwalk. It was almost like a driveway for a neighborhood who lived in the sea. While the porters wheeled our bags across it, I looked down at the crystal clear water beneath and marveled at the rippling sea floor. My parents had some concerns over the safety of children, especially one of my age of 9, staying in villas directly over the water. If I woke up in the middle of the night and stumbled outside, sleepwalking or restless, it could be a drowning hazard. As I wasn't the wandering type, they ultimately dismissed this concern. They had no awareness of the irony that I would be the only one of us not to drown. We checked into the spacious upper level of our villa and took in the beautiful but ordinary interiors. Then, finally, we went downstairs into the underwater sleeping quarters. It comprised of 2 bedrooms connected by a small walkway, and the entire space was enclosed by that transparent dome glass from the advertisement. It was breathtaking. A tropical-themed hotel room below the surface of the water, with glass walls displaying the sea life beneath the water. The light shined down, casting a blue glow over our beds, making it feel like a combination of a villa and an aquarium. Even when we retired to our rooms at the end of the day, the ocean experience never had to end. For many who stayed at these rooms at the lagoon's Paradise Resort and never would. Overflowing with excitement, I ran to the window and gazed at the fishes swimming past while my older siblings snapped pictures. Parrotfish, surgeonfish, butterfly fish. A world of tropical sea creatures strolled past and over the window like they were our neighbors, providing a panorama view of their dazzling colors. The rooms were positioned completely out from underneath the villa. The only structure above us that weren't transparent were the staircase and dumbweight shaft with the tray elevator. This place was so fancy, we wouldn't even have to leave this aquatic heaven to get our room service meals. Wow, this is spectacular, but I wonder how strong the glass really is. Mom wondered lightly, keeping any tone of worry out of her voice. Don't worry, dear. Dad jumped in to reassure her, gently knocking the clear wall with his knuckles. These windows are meant to be as thick as airplane windows. They're absolutely made from the same material. It's probably stronger than the windows on the plane we flew here on. This was enough to reassure my mom and the rest of us. When I bounced on the bed, as I always did in the hotels, my parents told me off, but specified it was because I could hurt my head, not because the ceiling could crack. The next few days at the resort were magical, with my family enjoying a variety of fun vacation activities such as snorkeling, paragliding, and jet skiing. It was better than any other holiday I've been on. Flashier and more energetic, a dream holiday for a young boy. In hindsight, there were already suspicious things happening around me under the sunny facade. During our meals in the open-air dining room, I could occasionally notice staff members of the hotel whispering to each other and pointing in our direction. I figured that was a normal thing for waiters to do to give guests the best experience. On the beach, in those spare moments where we had time to sunbathe, local vendors would occasionally stop to offer us various good luck charms. This was to be expected, except they would insist on us keeping the tchotchkes even before our family paid them. Again, I thought this was just people being nice, and I was all too happy to collect these. Last but not least was the moment when I peeked over the resort desk counter, while we were waiting to ask the manager about something. Only I saw the map with all the villas in the resort. Just as the manager popped behind the desk, I located our room on it. It was one with a few of the red X's on it. Strange. Maybe X meant special treatment? It wasn't all weird behavior from the staff, at least. A poolside bartender caught me a cool trick to open my orange soda bottle with a teaspoon, while I couldn't find my dad's bottle opener. Just wiggle the thin side here, he said, pressing the curved part of the spoon in the bottle cap, and push down. With ease, the young man pried the seemingly immovable cap off and handed the bottle back to my awestruck self. I couldn't wait to show my friends how to do this trick that was more valuable than a lame souvenir. As we rolled into the second week of the vacation, the itinerary became more and more involved. None of my family seemed to notice the strange occurrences, or if they did, they were too distracted and tired to care. It seemed that the hotel was intent on keeping us busier with things to wear us out each day. With just a few nights left on our trip, we had our most action-packed day yet. First being sent hiking across a nearby thick jungle, then zipping over the canopy in a whirl of green, and finally kayaking our way between the islands back to the hotel. We returned to our room that evening after dinner, thoroughly exhausted but satisfied with how much we had gotten to experience in the tropical location. The novelty of our blue subterranean ocean room had almost worn off at this point. When the light sand beyond the glass darkened to an inky black with a sunset, you couldn't make out the sea life anymore. Climbing into bed that night, I remember looking up at the night-colored dome above and feeling safe and warm. A cozy, modern, waterproof submarine to recharge in. That was the moment it happened. Suddenly, the door to the staircase exit bolted itself shut. I heard a beep and a click, the same kind you hear when you unlock a door with a key card. Sounds from across the room. My parents, who had been reading by lamplight, instantly got up to go investigate. Before they could even reach the door, however, more noises sounded. This time they were from a hatch opening up in the wall side panel near the staircase, one of the only places not covered in glass beside the floor. "What on earth is that?" my father started saying. At once, a torrent of seawater began gushing into the rooms from a large pipe behind the hole. From my bed, I blinked at what I saw in disbelief, part of me thinking I was still dreaming. When my parents started pounding on the door to no avail, my older siblings started screaming. That's when the fear truly kicked in. The unfloodable hotel room was really flooding with us inside. The explosion of water from the pipe quickly span across the floor of the room, reaching every corner of it. Once it had soaked all of our bedding, the water level began to steadily rise. Quint and Kay were petrified, banging on the glass wall and ceiling of the room, as if breaking it would do anything but flood the room faster. Alas, the glass truly was as strong as it had been described to be, in this case, entombing us in a watery grave. As soon as the room was half full, we began treading water like I had done throughout the holiday in the pool and sea. "Keep swimming, sweethearts!" my mom shrieked between gasps as she tried to pull us all close and above water. "There has to be a way out of here," my dad roared before diving into the water. He resurfaced, and then again and again. There seemingly wasn't. By this point, Kay was crying. The salt in her tears matched the salt in the seawater splashing against all of her eyes. Next to her, Quint, normally not the type to feel any cold, shivered uncontrollably in the chilly tropical water. Pressed up against the glass, I recall somehow glimpsing a grayish fish outside despite the darkness of the ocean exterior. The random fish paused to gaze at our panicked splashing before swimming past. In that moment, I felt overwhelmingly jealous of its freedom. It was like we were the ones on display in the aquarium, trapped. As the water finally reached the top of the dome, we began to gasp desperately for our last breaths of air. And then we were fully underwater, holding our breath, waiting to drown. My family's last words had already been spoken. I don't even remember them. There had been no point wasting oxygen screaming. What neighbors would hear us down here? Not even a dumb waiter could. Dumb waiter. Instantly, the idea took hold in my mind. I didn't waste a second. I spun around, kicked against the ceiling of the dome, and dove down to the stairs. There was no prying that door open. My dad had tried with all his effort already, but the dumbwaiter shaft was right next to it. My suspicions that it had clamped shut with the door was confirmed when I tried opening it. But that's what my lucky tool, which I had grabbed on my dive down, was for. Using the narrowest edge of the spoon, I wedged the utensil under the door of the dumbwaiter and applied leverage like the bartender had showed me. The spoon could have bent, with me drowning from the exertion, but miraculously the little square door cracked open in the dim water. Heart pounding, lungs aching, eyes stinging, I squeezed my body into the narrow shaft. Then I kicked like hell upwards, hoping the tray elevator wouldn't be blocking my path to air. Instead, I surfaced with a deep gulp of air in the pitch-black shaft. For half a minute, the water seemed to continue rising, but then it stopped. Relief flooded my bobbing, cramped body. And then I remembered my family was still down there. I tried to look down into the water, tried to call out to them, but I already knew the devastating truth. Even if they had seen where I'd swam, there was no way they could have followed me into that narrow, dumbwaiter shaft. I barely fit as it was. I didn't have enough room to dive back down looking for them. I had many hours to cry that night while I waited in that watery square tube. When dawn came, I was finally rescued by an elderly couple staying at the hotel who happened to be wandering past my family's villa. They heard my echoing cries and, with great difficulty, extracted me from the above-ground side of the dumbwaiter. To this day, I'm grateful I was found by them instead of hotel staff. Who knows if those lagoons would have finished what they had started. I was flown home a few days later, after a hushed-up local police investigation, where the official cause of death for my family was listed as being lost at sea during a snorkeling trip. No one listened to me, no matter how much I tried to tell them about the inescapable flooding suite. Our cameras and belongings were vanished by the hotel. They told me it was grief, trauma, and a child's imagination. Only after I got back to my family home and went through my parents' possessions did it click to me. They had been sent an invitation to the resort at a discounted rate. My diplomat parents were guests there, but they weren't the clients being serviced. They had been the victims of a conspiracy to assassinate them. My siblings and I were collateral damage. And the hotel, with their unbelievable underwater tombs, have been paid off to do this to countless other guests. I did eventually move on with my life, a much poorer life, being bounced around destitute guardians while my inheritance stayed locked away. But I'm an adult now. I have access to those funds, a great journalism job, and, despite all my trauma, a loving wife who I just married. Still, I can't let go of the injustice of what happened to my family. The world needs to know about what the Lagoon Paradise Resort has done. Few will believe what I have written here, but with the incognito investigation and some real evidence, I can get this story published. That's why I've taken my wife's last name and booked us a trip of a lifetime. Maybe I'm crazy to do this. Maybe anyone would be. But I know exactly where we're going for our honeymoon. Everyone was justifiably relieved when the tests proved the meat was generally pork. With their bellies full, the people stopped worrying about the dwindling homeless population and cared even less about what the farmers were feeding their livestock with. Identical Twins, Differing Sins by GuyAwks. Some identical twins share a strong bond, dressing and acting the same into adulthood. Certainly not Tiffany and I. From the moment we were born, we were as opposite as could be. While Tiffany was loud and boisterous infant, I was quiet and composed. I loved dressing up in pink dresses and tutus, but Tiffany gravitated to muddy shorts and t-shirts. This divide only grew in school. I became a straight-A student, juggling extracurriculars, and was voted class president. Tiffany? She'd be lucky to scrape above an F in any of her classes, if she even bothered to show up. Most of her absence days were spent drinking, partying, jamming in her punk rock band. Everyone knew Cicely was the good one and Tiffany was the bad one. Truthfully, I couldn't stand her. She was so unlike me, and I dreaded being mistaken for her. To me, she didn't value outside presentation nearly enough and was a terrible judge of character. Over the years, I saw less and less of Tiffany as our lives went in different directions. I became a respected marketing director, while she got a job in a factory. Thriving, I started dating an accomplished and sweet surgeon named Colin. We were a picture-perfect couple. And then I heard the shocking news. My sister had begun dating a convicted murderer in prison, while I was attending medical galas on the arm of my charismatic partner. She was visiting prison weekly to romance a trucker turned killer. Even for my edgy, rebellious sister, this was deplorable. I had it with Tiffany's deviant choices. "How could you date a convicted killer, Tiffany?" I bellowed into the phone. "Apparently, there's multiple eyewitness accounts of your boyfriend butchering a witness." "You don't understand, Cicely. Tyson is innocent," Tiffany argued back. Conviction filled her weathered voice. "Someone framed him for all that." Curiosity got the better of me. That night, I decided to Google her boyfriend's case, just to be sure. His mugshot that popped up from my search shocked me to my core. It's the same face I recognized in my doorway seconds later. Colin's warm smile turns cold as he detects what I'm seeing on my screen. I realize too late that Tiffany was right about her boyfriend being framed, as my own slides a knife from his pocket. We're not the only set of identical twins in town. Every night for the past month, I've gotten out of bed to double check that I've locked all the doors whenever the paranoia struck, only to find that, yes, indeed, I've locked all the doors. It's cold tonight, and I'm not getting out of my warm bed for nothing. And with that, our time together is coming to an end. If you have a story you'd like me to narrate, whether true or fictional, you can send it my way 3 different ways. All the links, including the ones to my socials, are down below. Of course, I'd like to thank all the writers who let me read their stories this evening. Guy actually sent me the link to my family drowned in an underwater hotel, and I knew that second I had to read it and narrate it. I already had identical twins all lined up to narrate, so I knew that I had to make a Guy special. I've also narrated some of his 2-sentence horrors, which he's really good at as well. I really enjoyed both these stories for 2 different reasons. We got to see a kid grow up, figure out why his family was murdered, and going back to get his revenge, or at least some proper answers. And then, of course, identical twins who fall in love with other identical twins without knowing it, and the twist at the end. Truly enjoyed it. I'm sorry for the last few months, my voice has been a kind of weird. I know that it will cut out randomly, my voice will go a bit higher. I've also been having troubles putting on different voices for you guys. I'm pretty sure I got COVID back in January, and I've had this cough and my vocal cords haven't been the same since. I am working on trying to fix it. The cough has started to go away, but the vocal cords are still having a bit of trouble. So I'm still trying to do voices and bring things to life, but it is limiting some of the stuff. So I do hope you enjoy, and if you hadn't even noticed, well, I do listen to myself way too much when I narrate these things. And heck, this outro has had to have a bunch of cutouts because I've had to cough and clear my throat so it would be a little less high pitch. It's been a pain in the butt, but I'm doing what I can for you guys. If you enjoyed these stories, hit that like button and make sure it feels it. If you're new, please subscribe and turn that pretty little bell to all notifications. And if you're willing to, hit that hype button to let YouTube know that others might enjoy these stories as well. And of course, please leave me a comment. Tell me what you liked, what kind of stories you like in the future. I had someone comment they want werewolf stories, so I got something lined up for that. And if you got this far, put VIP in your comments so I know you did. If you're on the podcast and are able to, please leave a review and a comment. If you're willing to help this channel and podcast grow, please share these stories with anyone who might enjoy it. It helps quite a bit. If you're willing to help in a more financial way, I do have Patreon and memberships where you get early access and a few other bonuses. But if you'd like to do more of a one-time thing, I do have PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, and Super Thanks. But as always, just thank you for watching and listening. It always has and always will mean the world to me. I just like bringing these stories to life for you guys. Sleep tight and don't let 42 bite.